Hi, Kay.
Hi, Magna. So good to be here with you today.
So good to be here with you. I'm so excited to talk to you about Astro-Bash and your role in being one of the keynote speakers and the founding of Astro-Bash and then coming back again this year. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like for you last year?
Last year was like going to a family reunion, right? Because there were so many people there that had been part of the apprenticeship trainings over the years. And even if I didn't know all of them personally, because I haven't been going to those trainings for quite a few years, so there were many people who were newer to it than me, but it's still family. We're still talking the same language. We have kind of a vibe. And the way it was set up with everybody being at the same place, and the food is there, and the food was delicious, and there were evening events, and it was just, kind of an endless, beautiful flow of connection. And of course, the speakers were great, and lots of speakers I hadn't heard before and new topics. And then, of course, Stephen Forrest there as well. So, yeah, we've missed that kind of connection for a long time.
Yeah. Is it something that you think people who are new to Steve's work or to your work, who are new to evolutionary astrology, would still benefit from attending?
Yes, absolutely. Because mm, even if you just know a little astrology or just barely interested, many times the speakers are speaking in a way that has philosophical, psychological meaning. It's not all details where you can't really follow it. So there were definitely people there last year who knew no astrology and were enjoying it. And then, of course, one of the things that happens is in between the lectures, when people are talking or people are at meals and they're talking, then everybody is teaching those newer people all about astrology. And if they have questions, they get like personal mentoring. So, yeah, a new person could definitely go. And I think for people who already know other kinds of astrology, and especially, I know so many of the younger people these days are really into Hellenistic and traditional astrology. And with that background, which is, has its own gifts and, the kind of predictive work that it has, to come over and check out evolutionary and what that might offer as a spiritual overview, because I actually feel like the combination of evolutionary with other modalities is a rich and powerful package.
I agree completely. I've done both horary through a very traditional school, and then I've done, of course, Stephen Forrest's evolutionary work. And I love how they blend and how much granularity the horary offers to my evolutionary work and how much depth and spiritual counseling skills that the evolutionary brings to charts where sometimes the result is undesirable, something the client doesn't want to hear. And then to be able to bring that to them with those skills is huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And you, Kay, specifically bring a lot of spirituality into your personal work. You integrate intuition and you even teach that to your students. How do you teach those kinds of things and how does that inform the work that you do?
Mm. Well, the truth is, I began my practice 40 years ago as a clairvoyant channel. And it happened because I just started meditating, because of Shirley MacLaine's book. And it set me on a whole new path. And I found a teacher who was a clairvoyant and a psychotherapist. She gave me a very good grounding in psychic work. And then from there, my spirit guides trained me. I've been teaching intuitive psychic work for over 35 years now. And how do I do it? I get people together. I talk about the concepts. We work through the different psychic chakras. We work through body, mind, spirit analysis. We work through the different kinds of spirit guides we could possibly bring in and the way that they speak differently. What's the difference between being a spirit medium and a channel, basic psychic, empath? I give everybody a chance to practice these things, sometimes in demos that I do, sometimes bringing in client, but most often putting people in breakout rooms where they practice with a partner and get validation, and people build deep connections and love this for developing their trust and their accuracy, which is always what we're all trying to do, but also connecting in spiritually, having that spiritual overview of life. And I find for me, the blending of the intuition and the astrology works for me on several levels. On one level, there's very specific detailed questions that I can answer psychically that the chart gives more symbolic information. It's kind of like this, or this could happen, but the psychic is like, this is happening. It's quite specific. But it also, the psychic ability shows me where to look. Like I'll be talking to somebody and you need to look at their progressed moon 4 years ago. I was like, I'll
Mhm.
just get a very definite answer of what chart I need to look at. So the psychic information guides me. And that's actually why I deepened my astrology study when I was a psychic, because my spirit guides started channeling information to me about astrology. I'd be talking to somebody and doing a channel, and they would say, "This is a Pluto transit," or Enneagram. She's a 2. I'm like, and then I have to scurry and find out more about what they were talking about. So I started the astrology by integrating things I could find in the ephemeris for people, like the lunar nodes and Pluto and Saturn, the big transformational pieces, and then backed my way into learning how to actually read a whole chart.
Wow, what a cool story that you found astrology through your spirit guides. And no wonder you're doing a very spiritual and evolutionary version of it. That makes a lot of sense. And
Yes, yes, because when I first started formal study, I was doing the work professionally for over 20 years before I went and found a teacher. And my first teachers were all psychological astrologers. But it was when I found Stephen Forrest that my work blossomed. He spoke to me in a way that no one else did. And I used to find sometimes the pure psychological astrology was a little dry and analytical, and I would feel like I was losing the heart connection with the person I was talking to. I have to revert really quickly to the psychic spiritual. But once I found the nuance and depth of the way Stephen Forrest had developed the evolutionary astrology, because I was always into the lunar nodes, but I didn't know these things he'd figured out about the skip steps and the planets that were ruling everything and how that would cultivate a much more nuanced story. When I found him, I found my home for sure.
oh, I love that. I feel exactly the same way about learning from him. You offer mentorship also, and you just mentioned how the mentorship from Stephen has shaped your practice and how it really did help you make come home. How would somebody who you're mentoring, or what would they gain from, or actually, you know what? Let me rephrase that. Can you share an experience of when you've mentored people through both astrology and the intuitive work? Because I know a lot of your students overlap. Can you share an example of the kind of experience somebody had working with you?
Mm. I have a lot of people that come to me, having worked with other teachers, and they will come into my astrology classes, which I keep kind of small and personal, maybe 10, 12, 15 people at the most, so that we are working on charts all the time. There's a lot of very specific work, and people share their stories that we can understand how their stories match the chart. But I also have an intuitive supervision group for people who are doing intuitive work in their day-to-day practice. I have a professional astrologers mentoring group. These groups meet monthly, and the professional astrologers group is limited to just 6 people, and people take turns bringing in a chart, and the group works on them and analyzes them with my guidance. And every year I do a year-long mentorship program called Spirit Dance, where 12 astrologers work on building their practice, and it includes some astrology, of course, as well. And then OPA, we set up an OPA mentorship group that happens with a number of well-known astrologers every year. And that's a 6-month program. So yeah, I am totally into mentoring, and I do individual mentoring. Many times newer astrologers will bring their charts to me that they're working on, and we'll do a session where we go through what they've analyzed, what they're thinking of, if that is accurate, and quite often the consulting skills side of it, how to impart the information to somebody, because that's challenging in any reading, but I think it's especially challenging with evolutionary astrology because we go into very deep, sometimes painful traumas, unconscious memories, and how do we speak of that to a person? It can do damage, and it's one of the reasons I am very thrilled about being a consulting skills trainer for so long. First for ESAR many years ago, and then with OPA, we set up a consulting skills program around 2017, and I oversee that program. And oh, yes.
I just
And
put
that's
this slide up because I figured you're talking about all these things. So people, I just want people to have a visual of all the different things that you do as you're speaking about it.
okay. Yes. So, as people may know, I am the president of OPA, the Organization for Professional Astrology, and we're having a retreat in Park City, Utah in October this year, October 16th to the 21st. And the thing that's different about our retreats is that we have these 3-day tracks, and I'm teaching consulting skills at that, and people working deeply about how to work with diversity and cross-cultural issues and communication. How do you talk to the client and find out what they're really there for, and then impart the information to them? So the consulting skills I'm very excited about, but I don't want to put too much emphasis on the retreat because we're here to talk about Astro-Bash in September, where also I will be delivering. I'm really excited about my new talk for that called Soul Fire, a relationship astrology view of Neptune in Aries. So that's a new thing coming up, that Neptune will be in Aries next year and for many, many years. And many of the talks, as you see when you're looking at that slide, in the next 6 months, many of the talks that I'm doing in some way are talking about Neptune and Saturn and their movement into Aries from Pisces, but putting the spin on them that's my spin, whether it's evolutionary, relationship astrology, or how to transform and heal with astrology, not just sit there and wait for the bottom to drop out.
Yeah, I love that. I'm very curious, of course. Do you have any quick nugget that you want to give us about Neptune moving into Aries, or do we all have to come to Astro-Bash to find out more?
We all have to come to Astro-Bash to find out more. But the interesting thing that I'm noticing is that it seems that when Neptune is in Pisces, of course, Neptune takes, 148 years to go around. So it's a long time. We don't have anybody with Neptune in Aries alive. But when Neptune is in Pisces, it seems like a lot of new ideas, imagination, like things are channeled in, the nature of Neptune. And then to be in Pisces is like, whoa, we're getting this cosmic sense of what's possible. And then I feel when Neptune goes into Aries, we put it into action. And that can be challenging because the Civil War started. So Neptune in Pisces, people have this idea it's not right to have slaves. We need to be compassionate and have a good world, and then they have to fight about it, and all that horror. And hopefully, as things spiral around, hopefully we have more consciousness. I think many people can feel like we're kind of in a civil war right now, energetically and on the internet, certainly in the United States, but even in other countries, this extreme separation between people has been ongoing. And now that we're coming into Neptune in Aries, and Saturn in Aries, it's going to be time to bring about new, fresh perspectives and ground that and build those new ideas. And that includes in relationship. We can see all the different relationship ideas and gender ideas and sexuality ideas that have been like growing like crazy since Neptune has been in Pisces. And so now I feel like we're just going to run with it. But that's just my first thoughts.
I love it. That sounds really, really exciting and really, really interesting. In fact, as you were talking about it, made me wonder, do you have any advice for people who are struggling with exactly what we were talking about before we even started this recording, this feeling of almost a civil war happening around us? Do you have any suggestions or tips?
Yes, I have a big tip coming direct from spirit because I have been channeling. I mean, I channeled in the 80s. I channeled year by year all the things that were going to happen that came about to be true energetically, and in certain social shifts all the way up to, as far as I could see at that time, was to like 2017, 2018. And I felt like things were going to start to get better then. And I've been quite disappointed, honestly. I've been disappointed again and again that things are continually harder and there's more backlash to ideas that I feel are just common sense and caring, loving ways to set up our world. But basically, going back to even 2004, when America was going into the Iraq War, and that was very discouraging for many of us, the um, the message from Spirit was that the seeds have all been planted and there's no need to worry. That all we need to do is keep our minds focused on love and on what we're building in this world, this new world that we are building, and that layers and layers of generations of evolved souls have been incarnating here, and that we're building kind of undercover, and that it's hard for us to watch the old paradigm fall, right? The old world has to dissolve and fall, and it scares us because it's all we know, and we feel it's bad when that's happening. But if we keep focusing on what we're building and the love and truth and connectivity and what is a sustainable world, all of a sudden that world is going to be evident and we're going to have it, and we'll keep working on it for, you know, thousands of years to come. I mean, nothing, this is a marathon, this is no sprint. It's not getting, totally better next year. But we have to keep, because the way in which we manifest, thoughts, words, actions manifest reality. The way that we manifest, if we worry and we just focus all the time on the negativity and the darkness, we just create more, we get more stuck in it. So we just have to keep holding the light and holding that positive vision of what we're building. And then the flow comes and we are supported.
I love that. Thank you for those heartening words. The seeds are planted. All we have to do is focus on love. Ah, what a beautiful piece of advice. In fact, as you're talking about taking action, as Neptune goes into Aries and this whole momentum starts, where do you see the field of evolutionary astrology going? And how do you see Astro-Bash playing a role in its evolution?
Simply going to continue to expand, and more people are going to find it and find that it resonates. So many times what I hear from people is that they were interested in astrology, they love the astrology they've learned so far, but when they find evolutionary, they're like, this is it. It resonates at a very deep level. And I do feel that it helps all of us to have that big structural karmic overview of what is the meaning of the life. And once you know what the meaning of the life is, then you can use all your great astrological techniques to figure out the path and how to handle things, basically what the weather is and whether you need an umbrella or you're going to run out in the sunshine.
I love that. And do you think conferences like Astro-Bash will play a role in perpetuating that feeling?
Yes, I do, because we like to get together and we need to get together. We need to have joy and, like dancing and singing and getting to know people. We learn so much at conferences in the in-between times, right? We definitely learn when we listen to speakers, but it is those nighttime conversations. Now, I can remember at last year's Astro Bash, there there were a lot of people had gone out and were, at a bonfire and singing and dancing and fire dancing and all sorts of wildness. And I just wasn't quite feeling it.
So we just had a minor thunderstorm snafu. And I'm going to have to ask Kate the same question I just asked again, which was that how do you think the role of Astro-Bash and conferences like Astro-Bash will be in the future of evolutionary astrology? And you were telling me this really juicy story about an event at Astro-Bash, and then I got cut off.
Okay, so what I was talking about there was that we have this need for connection. Like we love Zoom, and Zoom is accessible and inexpensive, and we can meet and learn. And I love the virtual work as well. But we need to connect with each other. We need to look in each other's eyes, see each other, talk about charts, all the extra things that don't get programmed in. When I was at Astro Bash last year, there was a point when everybody was outside and there was a fire and there was a fire dancer and they were chanting and everybody was excited. But I was feeling a little introverted, and I walked out on the back porch of the main area, and there was a man there who I didn't know at all. He was new to astrology, wasn't evolutionary, nothing. And we started talking. And I remembered it was such a profound conversation, and we gave so much to each other. I was able to talk to him a little bit about his chart, just knowing when he was born and looking at my phone app. He was able to offer great information, insight to me by the questions he asked me, this stranger. And we had a wonderful time. It was a deep moment. I don't know his name. I don't remember anything about him except the experience of this deep, intimate connection sitting in the dark in the back of the patio area while everybody else is singing and dancing and having a good time. And that to me, for for me as an introvert, as a person who likes depth and real conversation, was a powerful moment. And I know there were probably many people who had those powerful moments.
Wow. What a beautiful experience. That's how you and I first connected too. Late night conversations at ESAR.
That's right. Sitting in that big lobby area on all those sofas, and we were like magnetic to each other.
I remember,
Every
I
time
think we
I
must
saw you, I was like, oh, let's talk.
I think I spent every single evening with you during ESAR. We were just up late and chatting. It was
Mhm,
wonderful. And
mhm.
I've missed that about the APs and the in-person events. So I'm really looking forward to having more of that and to have it also really concentrated around a very particular way of looking at astrological charts and how much deeper we can go when we have that overlay over the top of it too. I'm so excited about that. That'll be great.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about in terms of going back to Borrego Springs?
Mhm. I love Borrego Springs. I have been going there for quite a few years. First to go down and see Stephen Forrest for individual readings when he was still doing that. And I kept on going every chance I could get. I love the desert. I love the night sky, the spaciousness, the warm, dry heat very much appeals to me. So to be there is just a warm bath for my soul.
Oh, I love that. That sounds wonderful. So, Kay, speaking of depth and conversations with people that go into the night, who is some historical astrologer for you and that you would love to sit down and have one of those conversations with?
That is such a hard question. You know, he's not really an astrologer, but I'd like to sit down with Roberto Assagioli, who was the founder of psychosynthesis, which is the spiritual psychology that infuses my work. And I know he knew about astrology, and he knew Carl Jung, who of course was psychologist, but astrologer as well. And Assagioli was connected to what he called the Swamis in India, the yoga adepts, and also the Alice Bailey people. And there's this synthesis and integration that he did of all of these streams of knowledge that I feel come through me also. So he's the one that I want to sit down and talk to and just be with. And ah, that makes me want to cry.
Oh gosh, I love that. I'm so glad
Mm.
you brought him up and how deeply he's connected with you. How beautiful.
Mm.
What
Oh, so this is me with Moon, Mercury, and Pisces in the 12th house.
I love that it's
Right
moving
now,
you.
my Aries sun and my Aries rising is going, oh no, you're crying on tape. Oh dear, but that is me. Anybody who knows me knows that's me, that I get easily touched by love and connection. And so to think about my love for this person, my teacher, my direct teacher studied with him directly in this early 70s before he died. But yeah, he's in my heart and I ask him to be with me every time I teach.
That's so beautiful, Kay. And thank you for sharing your love for your teacher with us. I am a huge,
Mhm.
I'm very connected to my lineage too. And I have multiple
Mm,
lineages, as do you. And there's something overwhelming about the work, the sacrifice, the exuberance, the fortitude, the courage of everyone whose shoulders we stand upon. And one of the things that I think about is the fact that we are standing upon the shoulders of a Kay Taylor and a Stephen Forrest as we proceed forward into our astrological work and our astrological journey. So, I imagine somebody doing an interview, I don't know, 50, 100 years from now when we're long gone, and someone gets teary as they talk about Kay Taylor and
mm,
what an impact she had on their life, either through the mentoring you've done with them yourself or through a mentor of theirs. I mean, the
mm.
film continues, right?
It does. And the connections continue. I often think about that, about all of these amazing astrologers that we all know and we're connected with. And that's something that happens at a small conference like the Astro-Bash, that you're all together, you're all talking, and the bigger conferences, the speakers tend to sit at their own tables and the people who are there to listen sit at their own tables and there's not a lot of cross fertilization, but at a place like Astro-Bash we're all together and able to get to know people in a deeper way. And yeah, amazing caliber of astrologers will show up.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited about it. Okay, I've got a few rapid fire type of questions that I would love to
Okay.
ask you to move us
Uh-huh.
out of this deep place and into something a little more playful. Not that I don't love the depth. What is your favorite guilty pleasure binge or TV show or movie that you've been watching lately?
Ah, gosh. Um, Comedy. I like watching stand-up comedy. I watch it every chance I can get.
That's awesome. What is your favorite aspect in your own chart?
Mm, my grand trine in fire. I have Aries ascendant conjunct Venus, trine to Mars in Sag in the ninth house, and Pluto in Leo in the fifth house. And that gives me an incredible amount of energy and positivity. Mm.
Yeah, I can tell every time I'm with you, it's like it's both your soft and your fire show up at the same time. I love that.
Mm.
If your moon took over the world, what would be the first thing it would change?
Everybody would have to love everybody.
We could use a little bit more of that moon. Well, that's all my rapid fire questions. I don't want to keep us into that mode. But one last thing about you and your work. Can you share with us what how somebody who's interested in learning intuition and evolutionary can come and and learn that on their from either from you or from if they just want to get started on their own, where would they start?
The first thing I would do is invite people to join my community because if you go to my website, in the middle of the navigation bar, it says community. And there you can join, and it's for free. I run it by donations, and I offer a free class every Friday in either intuition, astrology, or psychosynthesis. I do weekly and monthly astrology forecasts. I post meditations for whatever needs to be meditated on in the moment. And it's a way to connect and have community as well, but it's a way to dip your toe in the water. And then my regular classes are on the weekends, on Saturdays, either in the morning or the afternoon, all by Zoom, of course. And there we do the deeper work, the intuitive Saturdays for learning intuition at a deep level, all of the astrology classes. I teach a full certificate program in evolutionary astrology. So from beginning, the very first class, essentials, all the way through to advanced synthesis, people can learn with me that way. So yeah, I've always got something.
Yeah, from that list, I think there we could tell that there was something that Kay is up to every single every single month, weekday. That's great. Well, Kay, thank you so much for your time, for making time to talk to me about this. I know everybody listening is probably thinking, I would like to have been there and had that late night conversation. At least all the introverts are thinking that, and the extroverts over there dancing in the fire with the fire dancers. So hopefully we'll see.
Really, there's something for everybody. That's the one thing I'd say about Astro-Bash. Whether you're a very experienced astrologer or you're brand new, whether you're introvert or extrovert, you could just find your way. And there's lots of spaciousness. You can go out for a walk and the sandy sagebrush. It's very, yeah, it's very healing and spacious.
I came up with one more question that I want to ask you actually before I let you go, Kay. And that is, which of the astrologers who are coming to Astro-Bash are you most looking forward to hanging out with?
Oh, that's a difficult question because I haven't looked at the list really recently, but I do know Cameron Allen is going to be there this year, and he was there last year as well. And he's a very gifted medical astrologer and a great human being. So I'll be happy to see him again.
That's awesome. Well, wonderful to spend time with you today, Kay. Thank you so much again for making time. And for those of you who are thinking about Astro Bash, it's 26th to 29th of September, and we would love to see you there.